Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy DLloyd, and welcome back to another episode of the DLloyd NBA podcast. Have a pretty good show for you guys today. A couple of topics we do want to talk about, and in today's podcast, we're going to be going over Clint Capela and his latest contract offer from the Houston Rockets. We're also going to be speaking about Rob Pelinka and how he feels he's been building that roster for the Los Angeles Lakers. Also going to be talking about Cleveland, and apparently it looks like they turned down a draft night trade. We're also going to be going over the 76ers and their process and progress in trying to get Kawhi Leonard, and if that's still possible. And then the last topic, of course, is going to be Isaiah Thomas and where could he potentially sign. He is still an unrestricted free agent. But the first thing we will speak about is D'Angelo Russell, and he is yet to get a contract extension offer from the Brooklyn Nets whatsoever. Not even a contract offer, not talks. Nothing has happened so far with D'Angelo Russell and Brooklyn. Now, D'Angelo Russell, former second overall draft pick by the Lakers. He, of course, was shipped out to Brooklyn last season as the Lakers was trying to essentially get rid of that Timothy Mozgov contract, and essentially they were trying to make room for Lonzo Ball. So they were able to accomplish both. D'Angelo had a pretty solid season with the Brooklyn Nets. However, injury happened. He only ended up playing a total of 48 games for Brooklyn, but he averaged 15 points a game. He also averaged 5 assists per game for the Brooklyn Nets. There was a span in those games for D'Angelo that he played extremely well. I believe he averaged over 20 points a game for a few games in a nice little span before he went down with that injury. I think D'Angelo Russell is an extremely talented point guard. I think he's a potential to be, a top 8 point guard in the NBA. I definitely think he has that potential. Still only 21 years old, will be 22 this season. Still has a lot of potential. He could pass the ball, but he's a very good scorer as well. And I do like D'Angelo Russell if he could keep his head on straight, because I could also see that kind of becoming an issue later on. And that could also be the reason why he hasn't got a contract extension. Now, somebody who was drafted in the same draft class, Devin Booker, we just seen him get a 5-year, $158 million extension from the Phoenix Suns. We also seen Karl Anthony Towns. He's in talks now with the Minnesota Timberwolves to get that same 5-year, $158 million contract extension. The person who hasn't received that at all is D'Angelo Russell. Now, will, of course, the Brooklyn Nets end up doing it? I don't think they are, and this is the reason why. For the Brooklyn Nets, they are positioning themselves to be major players in free agency in 2019, and if that doesn't happen, they'll be major players in the summer of 2020. So that's what they're trying to position themselves now, to get rid of as much salary space as possible so they can have that salary cap ready and they have that flexibility ready come free agency. D'Angelo Russell is still going to demand quite a lot of money. He's not going to be a max guy if he enters free agency as an unrestricted free agent, but I think he'll definitely get paid a lot of money. For Brooklyn, you really have to decide this season, what do you want to do with D'Angelo? Because he's a restricted free agent in the summer of 2019, which of course means they can't match anybody, but he's going to be paid. So they have to kind of make that decision right now as to whether or not they want to keep D'Angelo Russell. So instead of extending him, you get one more season out of D'Angelo. You could truly see what you have before you decide to either extend him or you decide to match any offer that is made to him in the summer of 2019. So it makes sense from Brooklyn's perspective. D'Angelo Russell, he needs to be motivated. I'm hearing he is motivated, but he needs to be the best D'Angelo Russell we have seen so far in his 3-year career. This will be year number 4 for him, and he really has to show out and show that he can be that franchise point guard, that he can be relied upon, he can be trusted, and he can be consistent, and he can play a consistent amount of games. That has to be shown this year. If that is not shown this year, I could see D'Angelo Russell not getting a contract extension at all from the Brooklyn Nets, and I can see him hitting the market as a restricted free agent in the summer of 2019. Hopefully he could get everything together, because talent-wise, D'Angelo Russell has almost everything you could ask for out of a point guard. He has the vision. He can pass. I know he prefers to be the scorer and prefers to shoot, but he could do everything that you want talent-wise. You got to make sure everything else is there with D'Angelo Russell. And the Nets, they're not jumping the gun. They're not going to go ahead and extend him right now because they can. They were going to take their time. They're going to make sure They know exactly what D'Angelo Russell is going to bring. They want to make sure exactly where their roster is. Then they'll find out whether or not they want to give him a contract extension or not. But the next topic is somebody who still has not signed. He's a restricted free agent, and that is Clint Capela. We know his wants and desires right now, a huge contract. Last we heard, his wants is $100 million over 4 seasons. That is a hefty price tag for Clint Capela, but the Houston Rockets are also in a position where they can't afford to lose Clint Capela. So maybe you might have to overpay a little bit to make sure you bring him back. Now, what we heard the initial offer was from the Houston Rockets was about that $60 million spot for 4 years for Clint Capela. Now we're hearing they have upped it a little bit to $90 million for Clint Capela. However, there is a catch. That's over 5 seasons as opposed to 4 seasons that Clint Capela wants. Eventually, these two are going to need to meet in the middle. I'm not quite sure there's enough money to go around in this climate for Clint Capela to really get a $100 million offer from any other team. And of course, the teams that had the options to do that, like I said, the Phoenix Suns earlier, they could have done it. But of course, they decided to take care of the guy in Devin Booker, and then decided to go ahead and draft a big man as well. So you really don't need Clint Capela anymore. Clint Capela's market really not there for that $100 million offer this summer. You're not going to get that nowhere else. I think $90 million for 5 years, I think that's a pretty good compromise. At the end of the day, you get close to that money you wanted. You wanted near $100 million, $90 million, close enough. Tax-free state in Texas, so you don't have to pay any income taxes on that. So for Clint Capela, I don't see no issue with $90 million. Now, maybe he could try to negotiate it down to 4 years and then re-up after that. But 5 years, you have the security. I think that's a good offer from Houston. For Houston, though, you can't lose Clint Capela. So if he's still resisting, he still wants more, you could play hardball, but at the end of the day, you need to sign Clint Capela. So that's that little chess match that they're going to be playing back and forth all summer long. But the latest right now is Clint Capela has received a $90 million contract offer from the Houston Rockets over 5 seasons. He's wanting $100 million over 4 seasons. We'll see the compromise. I don't see him getting the 4 years, $100 million, but maybe they can meet somewhere in the middle. I definitely think $90 million over 5 years is definitely a great starting point, and I think they have to be somewhat close, at least closer than they were before at this point. Now, moving on to the Los Angeles Lakers. Of course, a lot of people are going to be talking about them, and they are an intriguing team this season. Now, a lot of people are also looking at the roster. I have no issues with how they assembled the roster so far, but the general manager, Rob Pelinka, he is saying that the Lakers are specifically built to combat the Golden State Warriors. We heard this earlier from Rondo. He kind of leaked out the ideas and what the Lakers are trying to do, and essentially, they're trying to do the complete opposite of what Golden State is doing. Golden State, they surrounded themselves with a bunch of shooters, and they can shoot lights out any point. They play small ball, and that's essentially what they're doing. The Lakers, what they're trying to do, they're trying to get IQ players, which the only IQ player that they signed really is Rajon Rondo, and they're also trying to surround themselves with playmakers, all 5 positions. They want to be able to put the ball on the floor, be able to play make, and be able to play defense, have that grit, have that dog to them, which a lot of teams are kind of losing because they're going more to that finesse style of basketball. They're trying to get that grit back. You can see that with Rondo, not the same defensive guy he was back in the day, especially when he was playing with the Boston Celtics, but he's still a very, very solid defensive presence at that point guard position in Rajon Rondo. How much switching is he doing? I think he can be a liability switching. I don't think he's that same guy, but he's still a pretty decent guy. Lance Stephenson, he's good for the playoffs. That's the only thing I can say. Lance Stephenson, you're definitely going to have your ups and downs with. Lance Stephenson during the regular season is going to frustrate you, especially Lakers fans. He's going to frustrate you, especially during the regular season. But where does he become valuable? In the playoffs. He is a competitor. He's going to try to go out there, do whatever he needs to do to win a game, and that is when he's going to come in handy. I think he's definitely going to be a great teammate. I think he's going to be a great teammate of LeBron James. I think he's going to definitely help out the Lakers during that playoff time. I think he's actually an important asset here during the playoffs. Of course, this is only a temporary fix. As soon as they can get another player like Kawhi Leonard, or maybe I don't know who else. Maybe they get a Klay Thompson. I'm not sure. People are saying that. I don't believe those are really a possibility. I think Klay Thompson will stay ultimately in Golden State. But say you can get, of course, a Kawhi Leonard, then things change a lot because now you have another defender who could play from the wing. That is Kawhi Leonard. He could guard almost any position. We know LeBron James could guard just about any position as well. You have a couple of big men that you drafted. And Mo Wagner, I like him a lot. I think this guy is a fantastic guard. I'm a center that they bring in so far. He could be able to stretch the floor. He could grab some rebounds for you. Of course, you have JaVale McGee. He's a better JaVale McGee than he was before. I'm not sure how much he will contribute, but if he's motivated, JaVale McGee could definitely be that guy, grab you rebounds, play a little bit of defense for you. He's not a crazy scorer, but you're not looking for him to score. He can finish it with a dunk after a rebound. So that's the good thing for JaVale McGee. But Mo Wagner, I think he's been playing fantastic out of the big man for the Lakers. He could have a pretty nice role. So I think the Lakers going in a different direction with how they are building this roster. And I think this can work. It might not work year one. I don't think it will work at all year one. But you can see them going in a different direction. I'm a huge believer that styles are always going to change. And it's the first team that thinks of that new style and can start building that way. That's typically the opposite of how the league is centered at that point. They're typically the ones that come ahead. The Golden State Warriors, they thought differently back in the late 2000s. They were like, maybe we should start getting shooters. We can start stretching the floor out a little bit. It took a while and a couple years to build. But when they built that small ball and that perfect lineup, it started demolishing teams that weren't ready for that. So now every team trying to compete with Golden State at Golden State's game, playing small ball. The Lakers trying to do the opposite. And, of course, every style of play, I don't care who you are, has a weakness. The Lakers trying to get that weakness. Will it happen? I'm not quite sure. We don't even know how the starting lineup is going to look for the Lakers. We know right now LeBron James is the only lock to starts. They've already came out and said nobody else is locked in at a starter position. That does include Lonzo Ball. We don't know who's going to be the starting point guard. If it's going to be Rondo, if it's going to be Lonzo, everybody's going to have to earn their spot. That's definitely good. The Lakers trying to put out the best product that they can. You can see they're trying to win. They have an opportunity to make some noise in this Western Conference. I don't think they will beat Golden State, but I think they are underrated, and I think they can do something because, to me, the Houston Rockets took a step back. To me, OKC, I don't think they're better than the Lakers, even with Paul George staying there. So the Lakers, they have opportunity to try to get something done in the Western Conference. We'll see how everything comes in. We'll see exactly how this lineup is looking as we get into training camp. But the Lakers, GM Rob Pelinka, he is saying they are built to combat the Golden State Warriors. You guys let me know in the comment section below. Do you agree? And do you think this thing will actually work? Now, talking about LeBron James' current team, we're also going to turn things to his former team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, on draft night, we're hearing they had an opportunity to move up to the 3rd overall draft pick. Of course, they're looking for a point guard. You had a couple of them. You had Luka Doncic there. You also had Trae Young available at number 3. So they could have had either one of those 2 point guards, but they instead decided to stay at number 8. Now, here's why. It's a really good reason why, and I'm kind of shocked the Cleveland Cavaliers made this decision based off the past moves, and I applaud them for this decision. So they could have moved up to number 3. Immediately, you think, why don't you move up from number 8 to number 3? It's a great pick. You could have had Luka Doncic. You could have had Trae Young. But the Atlanta Hawks were asking for the 8th pick. That's all they really wanted, what we're hearing right now. But they wanted Cleveland to take on the contract of Kent Bazemore. Now, Kent Bazemore, he makes $18 million this season, $19.3 million on a player option next season. So the Cavs could have done it, but they're taking on more salary, and Cleveland's salary cap situation is terrible right now. You can't make any moves. This is why their roster has been stagnant, and you can only do so much until you get rid of that Tristan Thompson contract, until J.R. Smith, he decides to leave. You are really stuck with those contracts right now. Even you're stuck with Jordan Clarkson's contract. So your salary cap situation is not good. You bring in Kent Bazemore, your salary cap is destroyed at that point, and you can only draft players and sign players for minimums or hope you can get a trade somewhere. That's really your only option at that point. Free agency is done. You really can't improve there, especially if you bring in Kent Bazemore. So they made a responsible decision. maybe not the best decision, maybe not the sexiest decision, because you could have got that Luka Doncic or that Trae Young, could have helped with ticket sales, maybe could improve your team. But instead, you decided to stay at 8. You brought in Collin Sexton, who's been playing very, very well in the Summer League, has shocked me so far. Collin Sexton, I like his game. I thought his potential was good. If you remember me talking about him, I like his mentality that he has, and I love mentality. I always look for that in players. I think that sometimes is overlooked. How does a player think? How much does he want it? How is he going to go out there on the court and play? I love that of Collin Sexton, but I did think he missed a lot of easy passes while at Alabama, and I thought he'll be one of those players that would take some time to develop. But he's proven me wrong so far. I know it's just Summer League, you can't jump the gun, but he's been looking like one of the more polished point guards in this draft class so far during the Summer League. So it looks like Cleveland made the right decision staying at 8, deciding to reject that offer, keeping their salary flexibility, not really flexibility, still terrible, but keeping that extra salary off of their books and just going with Collin Sexton. It's seeming like a responsible and a pretty good decision now that we're sitting here at Summer League and it's winding down, and you're seeing what Collin Sexton is bringing. Of course, we haven't seen Luka Doncic out here so far. Trae Young, I know people are talking about him. He's starting to warm up. He's having a couple of 20-point games. Trae Young, to me, still is not looking that great. So, for me, I think Cleveland Cavaliers, they made the right decision, staying where they're at. We'll see how far Collin Sexton can lead this team, of course, without LeBron James. Now, moving over to the Philadelphia 76ers, and their progress trying to get Kawhi Leonard. Now, for the San Antonio Spurs, they prefer to trade Kawhi to the Eastern Conference. The only two realistic teams that have enough to offer to get Kawhi Leonard are the Boston Celtics and Markelle Fultz. For Boston, they are refusing to include any of their top 5 players, but they do have the most draft assets than any other team. They could just stack draft picks. For Philadelphia, you're going to have to trade essentially Markelle Fultz at some point if you want Kawhi Leonard. But if you believe in Markelle Fultz, you should be able to keep him, because out of the young core, Saric, he could be traded. Markelle Fultz, he could be traded. Of course, Ben Simmons isn't going anywhere, and Joel Embiid, they are not going anywhere. So Markelle Fultz is that name, and that's the name that I'm hearing the San Antonio Spurs would like if they were to move on from Kawhi Leonard. We don't know exactly where Markelle is. We knew his shot is all messed up, is a mental thing. Can he be able to reform that shot? That is the main question this summer. If he could develop his shot, of course, we've seen him in the Summer League, but he's not playing. If we can develop that confidence and he can get that shot to anything close to what it was back in college when he was at Washington, Markelle Fultz could be a pretty good player. However, mentally, Markelle Fultz, we don't know where he's at. We've seen him on the court, and from what I've physically seen, he does not look good at all. And from what I've physically seen, his mental psyche, I don't know if he could get that back. If you believe that if the 76ers are in the same mindset that I am, that I'm not sure Markelle Fultz could ever get that psyche back. And Markelle Fultz is standing in the way of me getting Kawhi Leonard. I'm moving Markelle Fultz so quickly, it's not even funny. He will be moved out before the end of this podcast if I'm the general manager of Philly and Markelle Fultz is the guy they want, maybe some draft picks. They're being shipped out to San Antonio right now, and Kawhi Leonard is flying into Philly if that's me. Of course, Philly, they're a little bit more optimistic. Of course, they also invested that entire season essentially trying to get Markelle Fultz back right. If he does come back and they believe he can be the same Markelle Fultz he was before the draft, he can be the same Markelle Fultz that was here even during Summer League last summer, then you don't move Markelle Fultz because the potential for him is high. You don't have to pay the Kawhi Leonard that much money right away. We don't know where Kawhi is health-wise either, and I think that's a huge reason why teams are still being hesitant. You don't know what's up with Kawhi Leonard and his injury. We don't know exactly where he is health-wise. I think that is going to push some teams away. But if it's me, Markelle Fultz definitely being shipped out for Kawhi Leonard. But you guys let me know. Do you guys think Markelle Fultz will end up bouncing back? If he can bounce back, then would you trade him or would you keep him? But to me, Kawhi Leonard, if he's healthy, top 5, top 3 player in the NBA, you have to take that shot. You have to go ahead and get Kawhi. If it's me, I'm definitely doing it. Now, going on to our last story of today, Isaiah Thomas still an unrestricted free agent. Of course, he was renounced by the Los Angeles Lakers. once they got Rajon Rondo. Don't need Isaiah Thomas anymore. But we knew that was over once they signed LeBron James. IT definitely playing 3, playing 4 for the Lakers. We seen that he could have went to Orlando. Apparently, they were in conversations. He even followed them on social media. However, things fell apart once they started negotiating. And what you have to assume, Isaiah Thomas wants way more money than is being offered. IT still wants to get paid. It was just 2 seasons ago now that he was saying that Boston's going to have to pull up the Brinks truck because he's going to get paid. He's going to want a max deal. And now what he is looking at is far from a max deal. Now, I don't know exactly how much Orlando was offering, but you know it's nowhere near that $30 million a year offer he's looking. It's probably nowhere near $15 or $10 million a year. I'm thinking he's definitely in the single digits. And now you start asking, maybe can he sign a mid-level exception somewhere at around $5 million or maybe $7 million? I'm not quite sure Isaiah Thomas is even commanding that at this point from teams. So if that's the case, you don't really have a lot of other places you can go. Now, while in Vegas at the airport, Isaiah Thomas seen an old beat writer for the Boston Celtics, and he kind of joked around a little bit that he could potentially come back for one more season. So basically what he just said, he said, tell Boston I'll be back for a year. Then he said, good to see you and miss my Boston fam. That's what he said when he seen that beat reporter, from the Boston Celtics. Now, does this mean he could be open to returning to Boston? We kind of seen this before, that he could be willing to go there. We know him and Danny Ainge probably still don't have the best relationship. I don't know if they could actually repair that relationship. And now if you go back to Boston, it's not the same Boston that it was before you left. You're not coming back to being that guy. That's not going to be your team. Kyrie Irving still going to start over you if you go back to Boston. All those young guys still going to start over you if you go back to Boston. So if you go back there, definitely swallowing your pride, because you're not going to get paid a whole lot. If they don't want to pay Marcus Smart, $15 million a year, you're not going to get paid a whole lot of money. And then on top of that, you're going to be coming off the bench more than likely if you do go back. Maybe they can put you at the 1, put Kyrie at the 2, and just have an off-ball type of guard situation. But I don't see that happening. I don't really see you going back to Boston, Isaiah. If you do, be a great story, but you're going to have to swallow a lot of your pride to go back to Boston. You're not going to make a lot of money, but I think at this point, you're not going to make a lot of money anyway. Your best option is to go somewhere on a 1-year deal where you can showcase that you can still ball, that you can showcase that your hip is completely healthy, that you're ready to go, and you could come out here and score another 20, 25 points a game. Even in a situation if you're coming off the bench, if you come in and you can still put up those 18 points a game coming off the bench and still show, as long as you play, you could potentially go back to the 28 points a game that you had in Boston. Then maybe you could get an opportunity to get paid. But at this point, you have to make a business move. The best business move is to go somewhere on a 1-year deal. Could that be Boston? Potentially, if he feels like swallowing that pride, because we've seen how he worked in that system, and that system made Isaiah Thomas Isaiah Thomas. So we will see what happens. You guys let me know, would you guys like to see Isaiah Thomas back with the Boston Celtics, or should he just go to another team? But that is everything that I have for today's episode. As always, I definitely hope you guys did enjoy it. Let me know how you guys feel about some of these topics in the comment section below. And of course, please go ahead and leave this video a like. It helps me out a lot. It's your boy DLloyd. I'm going to see y'all next time. Peace.